Welcome, I'm the Wordnerd, and in this video we're going to do another random psalm study. So in the last video I put the psalm that we were going to study, and it's going to be Psalms 142, and in the description and also in the pinned comment will be the next psalm that we study. It just gives you a chance to read and study before my video comes out, and someone requested I do that, and I think that's a great idea. You know, it's still going to be random, so I still use a random number generator to do that, but yeah, so let's just dig deeper. As always, we're going to hit the NLT Illustrated Study Bible for the amazing illustration of the Psalms. So they have like the kinds of Psalms and split up into this cool illustration, and it took me a second to find Psalms 142. There is 150 squares, so, but this one is a laminate. And so we are going to kind of put that in our mind, and then we're also going to grab a purple pen, and I already read this psalm once, okay? So, but now I want to go back and read it again, marking Lord, or God, or the names of God in the psalm. But first we're going to go ahead and write down that this is a laminate psalm and or prayer. A laminate is just a mourning or a grieving, so this is basically a mourning prayer. It's just a cry to God, really. I mean, that's what it is. It's just a cry to God. And so I just write that on the side and highlight it. I am trying to keep the colors consistent with this Illustrated Study Bible, just for funsies. You don't have to. You do what you want. So, so I just write that down and then highlight it. So let's just go ahead and read the Psalms. So the heading of the Psalm is Maschil. I don't know if I've said that right. Of David, a prayer when he was in the cave. And then we continue to verse 1. I cried unto the Lord with my voice. With my voice unto the Lord did I make my supplication. I poured out my complaint before him. I showed before him my trouble. When my spirit was overwhelmed within me, then thou knowest my path. And the way therein I walk have privately laid a snare for me. I looked on my right hand, and behold, but there was no man that would know me. Refuge failed me, no man cared for my soul. I cried unto thee, O Lord, I said, thou art my refuge and my portion in the land of the living. Attend unto my cry, for I have brought very low. Deliver me from my persecutors, for they are stronger than I. Bring my soul out of prison, that I may praise thy name. The righteous shall compass me about, for thou shalt deal bountifully with me. So I am just boxing in the word Lord, so you can kind of see how I want to start marking my Bible on this little post-it note. I'm going to make a separate video about that, so don't really concern yourself too much, but it's just, I want to try to make my notes more readable or legible or more organized. Whatever you want to call it. That's what I am trying to do with that. So the next thing that I always like to do is I always like to go to my NIV Archaeological Study Bible, and I always want to check if there's any kind of background information about this psalm, or any archaeological, cultural, or something about the psalm. And I look in my Archaeological Study Bible, and there was none. So I just continued on. So I think I go and look. Oh, I also check in my new Tyndale dictionary and see if they said anything about it, and there wasn't anything there either. I also felt like I had something within my journaling Bible that I had at one time, like the Psalms in a chart or something, and I must have lost it or misplaced it or something, so that's what I was looking for. So I went to my cultural background study Bible, and then they were showing basically the cross-reference to David, because it says a prayer when he was in the cave. So I looked up the cross-reference, and that is 1 Samuel 22 through chapter 26. So it's chapter 22 through 26. So this was when David was running from the king, Saul. And then I also wrote down that the Judean wilderness that David was running in has abundant caves scattered throughout the region. So, we can't narrow it down to one cave, but that is very interesting. That it's, interesting that there's, a bunch of caves throughout that. So, I also checked the NLT Illustrated Study Bible to see if they said anything about this psalm. I tried to always check all of my study Bibles to see if there are any kind of information, archaeological, historical background information. But then we're going to just jump into a bunch, I guess I would say a bunch of word studies, more or less. So I think the first word study that I am looking at is the maskil. I have no idea how to say that word. I'm looking in my Tyndale Bible Dictionary, and then I also go and look it up in the Blue Letter Bible app. And I also realized I'm going to need a lot more space for this. And I do not realize it until later, but I start my notes at the top of the page, even though Psalms 141 is at the top of my page, and I should have not started there. So I fixed that later. But anyway, so Machil, or Machil, however you want to say it, is a Hebrew term in 13 Psalms. We don't know what this is. Perhaps it's a musical cue denoting the manner in which the designated psalm were to be performed. So, we think that's what it is. So I write that down. Then the first word study I did was cry, because I cried unto the Lord. So cry is to utter loudly, beg or beseech, to proclaim publicly, to require or suggest strongly a remedy or disposition, which is a remedy or control. So David was really crying to the Lord, I got a bunch of these persecutors, I'm in trouble, everything just seems overwhelming, I need your help. He's begging the Lord, beseeching the Lord, he's wanting a remedy to his situation. That's why I like word studies. I just think word studies gives a whole lot to you, without having to have a lot of resources. So the next word study I do is on supplication. So when I am studying within my journaling Bible, I don't make word studies is still one of my main things I do when I study, but supplication, is basically to make a humble entreaty, to ask humbly or earnestly of. So he's asking earnestly. It was also translated as mercy, gracious, favor, pity. So he's basically asking, God for mercy and wanting help for him. So then I jump into doing a word study on poured in verse 2, I think. If I say one more time, I am so sorry. This voiceover is going to be I try not to do but that's a struggle. Anyway, so I draw a box around my word studies, so I know the difference between a highlight means there's some kind of information. A box means there is some kind of word study in play. The next word study that I do is, I already said it. It's poured. Did I say poured? Yeah, I think I did. And it was translated as poured out, shed, cast out, gush out, and it's to supply or produce freely, to give full expression to, or vent. So he's basically venting, which I thought was interesting. So I poured out my complaint. So he's venting his complaint. And complaint word study it's a noun. It comes from the Hebrew word which means to talk, and that's a verb. And complaint is a noun. It was translated as complaint, meditation, only once though, but it was translated as complaint most of the time. So this is when I fixed my mistake, because I had to do this study 2 different days. I was not able to finish it in one session. So I changed the background, took out that piece of paper, put this one in, and continued. Again with the And then, so basically complaint means expression of grief, pain, or dissatisfaction. So, sometimes when we hear the word complaint, there's always some kind of negative connotation to it, but it doesn't always have to be. Basically, David is saying that he's just in pain and he's in grief and he's dissatisfied, I guess, in some sense. The next word study I do is show, or shu, means to tell, declare. I just thought that word was very interesting. We don't speak that way. This is the KJV, so I wanted to do that. Then we have trouble. Trouble comes from the adjective enemy, but this is a noun. It was translated as trouble, distress, affliction, and it's the quality or state of being troubled, especially mentally, concerned, worry, emotional, or behavioral problems. So he's exhibiting emotional behavioral problems. And then I do a word study on spirit on this post-it note. So this word is translated as spirit, also wind and breath, mind as well. So the definition is an animating principle that gives life to the physical, a temper or disposition of mind or outlook, the immaterial intelligent part of a person. So I feel like that can be like your spirit, or also a disposition you're in, because the next word study I do is overwhelmed, and overwhelm is to upset, overthrow, to cover completely, to overcome by superior force or numbers, to overcome in power, in thought or feelings. So this could be a spirit of disposition of the mental, the mind and the outlook. Like your mental is just overwhelmed. I know that I get that way. And then I just write the second part of the verse was translated differently in the other translations. So on this it says, "Then thou knowest my path." And the NLT says, "You are alone, know the way I should go." ESV says, "You know my way." NIV it says, "It is you who watch over my way." So because they were pretty different, I don't know, I just wanted to include them. I think it helps you to have more knowledge and more understanding when you use the other translations, because all translations have some type of interpretation aspect into it. So then I underline verse 3 because I'm going to give some interpretation, I guess you could say it. So God knows where we are and what we are doing and what we are going through. He knows when we become overwhelmed, and He's right there with us. He sees the traps and the snares the enemy is trying to keep us in or to trick us with. God is greater than our situation, the enemy, and the tricks, and even ourselves. In John 1:4 it says, "Greater is He that is in me than he that is in the world," and that we need to remember that. So the next thing that I am doing is I am talking about verse 4, that no man would know me, no man cares. As believers and followers of God, we can be lonely. People don't care to help you even when you're in trouble. Sometimes people don't care even to get to know you as a person just because they judge you because you are a follower of Jesus. People might not care, and at times and seasons there will be loneliness, but God is there. I think sometimes we forget that. And then I do a word study on refuge in verse 5. Refuge is a shelter or protection from danger or distress, something to which one has resource in difficulty. So God, it says, "Thou art my refuge." He has our resources when we have difficulty. He's the shelter. He's our protection. Then portion. Portion is an individual's part of something, an individual's lot or fortune, future, one's share of good. So He's our portion, which means He's our inheritance, basically, in the land of the living. And I put that in the pink sticky note. I had to find it. But I underlined verse 5, and I said, God is His life, our life, and our purpose in this life. David, he follows God over his situation. God is our shelter, protection, where we can rest and recoup for this life and the attacks from the enemy. We cry to God because we need to be reminded that God is our life and refuge and strength. Remember God's past acts on us to help to keep our spirits. And I put some cross references as Jude 1:20 and 1 Samuel 30:6. If you want to look that up, you can. I'm not going to read it here though. Then you jump to verse 6. And I just underline it because I'm just going to. So underlining it is like I'm either writing down my thoughts, or I guess you could also call it interpretations. But basically it's God doesn't always fix our problems right away. Even though we think He should. Sometimes we need to remind Him that we need His help, because on our own we will lose. Our enemy is stronger than us if we're alone. Sometimes our persecutors wear us down, and we need God to move to attend to us because we are low. Whether that is spiritually, physically, a mixture of both most of the time. When, verse 6 says, "Attend unto my cry." He's basically like, pay attention to my cry, pay attention to my begging, pay attention to my pain. I'm very low. Deliver me from this, for they're stronger than I am right now. And he knows that God is his strength, and he's asking God to move for him. Then I just write down for verse 7, "It feels we are in prison when we are low and overwhelmed. We are confined and can't do anything. Even though we want to praise him, it's like we can't. Once we are out and we praise we praise with the community of believers, and the believers come around and help us to build ourselves back up. Once we're out of this prison, God helps us, and our community, our church community can help us to build ourselves back up in the Lord, to have strength. So, yeah. That's this Psalms 142. I hope you are inspired and encouraged to dig deeper into God's Word. Remember, God loves you and He's always with you. Check out my other videos with Psalms. And yeah, I'll see you in the next one, guys. God bless.